I was speaking at the University of Arizona. I said, date rape is absolutely wrong. A very sharp guy stepped out of the car and he said, wait a second. I've date raped, and the reason I date raped was because I have a very high testosterone level. And because I have a very high testosterone level, I had to rape. He's consistent with his atheism. We're just a pile of chemicals. He happened to have too much testosterone, so he had to rape her. I totally disagree with that worldview. I'm standing here saying, no, sir, you did not have to date rape her. You could have chosen to exercise self-control and not have sex with her against her will. In fact, I'm so convinced that you have free will that I'll call the police and have you arrested to hold you responsible for that date rape. See, it's radically different worldviews.
I just think you're skewing it in a way to make it fit your idea of free will.
Now you're being intellectually dishonest. I'm not skewing anything. I'm listening to what you say, and I'm taking what you say to its logical conclusion.
That's your conclusion.
No, Nietzsche did it, Camus, Sartre, any good atheist. Bertrand Russell did it. Any hard-thinking atheist understands the implications of their atheism.
But you're throwing me in a category with other people.
Sure, they're brilliant philosophers. They're excellent logicians.
Sure.
It's logical. The question is, what's logical? And if there is no God, it's obvious that we're just matter and energy. There's no free will. There's no ability for me to love the guy. I mean, well, why would I help him? Because of social Darwinism if there is no God, right?
Yeah.
I want to preserve my life, so I'll treat him okay because I want him to help me preserve my life. But in terms of caring for the guy, that doesn't exist. It's just biochemical reactions, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, that's the truth, that there is no God. Now live it out. You can't live it out. Instead, you choose to love. You choose to hold me responsible for using four-letter words to describe you in a very degrading way, or else for respecting you and treating you with compassion. And if I dump four-letter words on you and demean you, you're going to hold me responsible for that, aren't you? You're not going to say, oh, well, I understand his biochemical reactions forced him to do that.
Well, it would just be a hardwired thing in your head to say, I'm going to insult this guy.
Yeah. And that's exactly the argument of the date rapist. I am hardwired to rape. I have no choice.
No, I believe you can have a choice, but how does
Not if you're an atheist.
How does that not back up? How can you throw all atheists into one thing when most atheists don't believe the same things?
Sir, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about an idea. I'm talking about reason. I'm talking about logic. All right? If you start at the logical point, there is no God, then it means there are logical consequences to that belief. All of my atheists are great people, okay? So this is not a statement about atheists. It's a statement about the reason, the thinking, logically.
But if you want to get down to thinking logically, there's so many things in the Bible that are just illogical. It's insane.
No, there's nothing in the Bible that's illogical.
The whale or the giant fish swallowing. Yeah,
Okay, sir.
That's logical.
Okay, good.
By far.
You're right. It's the whole issue of miracles.
But that's not logical at all.
Oh, yes, it is
A
logical.
miracle?
If there is a supernatural God who creates the laws of nature, then it is totally logical that this supernatural God could change the laws of nature that he created in the first place and perform what you and I call a miracle.
But he's not also.
That is totally logical. If there is no God, then it is illogical to think that a miracle could take place. But if you allow for a supernatural God, then miracles are not illogical. You follow that or not?
Yeah, I follow that.
Is that logical?
That makes sense, yeah.
Thank you, sir. So there's no problem with miracles in the Bible because there's a supernatural God. Obviously, the problem would be miracles, no supernatural God. Then we'd have a real logical inconsistency.
You don't find making an ark filled with two of every animal like really hard to believe?
Yes, it's hard to believe. But when I realize that a supernatural God exists, then a miracle is possible.
So yeah.
It's hard for me to believe that a virgin had a baby named Jesus. Very hard for me to believe, okay? But when I allow for the possibility of a supernatural God, it's not illogical, it's not irrational, but it is a miracle. But you see, that's what I was trying to point out to you, is if you take your atheism seriously, your real problem is with love, with free will, with justice. Because those are all miracles, if they're real.
How's that a miracle?
Because if you're an atheist, you're saying all of reality is matter and energy, which means there's no free will. They're highly complex biochemical reactions. Determinism wins the day.
Highly complex.
Yeah, highly complex. But you see, what I've heard you argue is, no, I do think there's a free will. Which is a miracle.
I never said the exact word.
But that would be a miracle. But you see, your problem is, you don't have a miracle worker because you don't believe there's a God. So what you do is you believe in a miracle without there being a God when you say, I believe in free will.
Are you familiar with the chaos theory?
Yes?
Okay. So the chaos theory is there's chances within a constrained area, but there's no way to predict it. So I could throw the dice 5,000 times to hit 7. Some would say that's a miracle.
Yep.
But that's pure chance.
Okay, fine. Okay, so let's go play poker, you and me.
Sure.
All right, I'll deal. And I'm going to deal 20 hands of 4 aces for myself.
Yeah.
And as you're reaching for your gun to blow me away, I'm going to say, wait a second. You've got to realize that there are an infinite number of universes, and we just happen to live in a universe where I am able to deal 4 aces 20 times as my hand.
You can't say there's an infinite number of universes because uni means 1, so the infinite number of universes would be the universe.
All right, fine. So I'm with you. I just believe there's one universe at this point. Fine. But I'm going to say it's just chance.
Yeah.
It's just chance that as I'm dealing, I deal myself 20 hands of 4 aces each in a row.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to believe that. I think you're going to say, guess what, Cliff? There's no way statistically that really could happen.
But
the possibility is so minuscule that I think there's a little conspiracy going on here, Cliff. I think you're being dishonest. I think you've dabbled with the cards, and that's why you came up with 20 hands of 4 aces in a row for yourself. And I think you'd be correct, sir.
But you can't deny the possibility that it can happen.
Absolutely correct. It is possible. It is possible that I could deal myself, as the card dealer in poker, 20 hands in a row of 4 aces for myself. It's possible. But come on, guys. I hope that your brains are working well enough that you'd say, no. It is far more probable that Cliff cheated than it is to believe, oh, this just happened by accident. See, it's probability, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now what you've got to do is you've got to ask yourself, is it more probable that the human central nervous system, the eye, the heart, the laws of nature, if we were 1% closer to the sun, all the water in the ocean would evaporate and we would die. If we were 2% further away from the sun, the oceans would freeze and we all would die. When you look at the amazing order and design of nature in this world that we live in, is it more probable to say it's a chance, or is it more reasonable to say there's got to be an intelligent mind behind it?
What makes me more important than that tree?
That's exactly right. Now remember, you're an atheist, right?
Yeah.
There is no God. So please answer your own question.
Sure.
What makes you more valuable than this tree?
Nothing.
Thank you. Now you're being consistent, rationally. There's absolutely no reason for you to view yourself as more valuable than that tree, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you. A head of lettuce,
Sure.
a cow's head, her head. I take out a machete, whack, off with the head of lettuce. I go to the cow, whack, off with the head of the cow. Whack, off with her head.
Okay.
What is the difference between those 3 actions? Is there any difference between me cutting a head of lettuce, cutting a cow's head, cutting her head, according to your atheist?